Timberwolves president of basketball operations, David Kahn. Who is he?
Tell us exactly about this European Blake Griffin.
I don't know. I think Blake Griffin is American numbers.
The Charlotte Hornets select Kobe Bryant.
The Milwaukee Bucks select Dirk Nowitzki from Würzburg, Germany.
I'm Ricky Rubio. I'm not like anybody else, but
It ain't the end of the world. We're going to see each other again. I mean, I'll send him some flowers or some fruit.
All right, and now we have Nick and Sam from EuroLeagueAdventures.com. Great website if you guys are looking into the international flavor. They've been on top of it on Twitter, on top of it on their website, just going on with all the great summer tournaments. People complain about not having basketball this summer because of a lockout. Well, we weren't going to have basketball till October anyway, so over the summer we've been fairly entertained with all this great international action. How are we doing tonight, Nick?
Good. How you doing, Chris?
Doing great. What about you, Sam?
Doing excellent, man.
That's good to hear. So, yeah, we were just talking before we came on about one of the most common things that a lot of casual fans don't know a ton about. It's the age rule with the international players. Now, with the American players, it's easy. It's you go to college for a year, and now you can enter the NBA draft because of the rule that changed a few years back. Let's go ahead and ask Sam this. What is the eligibility rule with the international players if they were to want to enter into the NBA draft this year?
So basically, for the 2012 draft, if it happens, you have to be 19 during the next calendar year, so during that calendar year. So as long as you turn 19 sometime in 2012, you'll be able to get drafted.
Okay. Yeah, and that works out. It's a very easy rule to remember. Like I said, a lot of the casual fans out there may not know the international rule, and there's a lot of stars out there that we're seeing in the under-18s and the Euro baskets and everything that aren't quite of age. Like we saw Ricky Rubio dominating as a 17-year-old, and then everyone wondered why they had to wait a few years before he can put his name in the draft to actually be taken and come over to the NBA. So that explains it out there for everybody. Now, Nick, let me ask you this. So there's been a lot of great basketball going on this summer. I want to ask you, of the international players we've seen that are potentially coming towards the NBA, the younger prospects that have not been drafted yet, who are some of the guys that you think stood out in either of the tournaments? You can kind of bounce around if you'd like, but who are some of the better prospects that you saw?
Well, I think what was interesting about the U18s this year, the FIBA U18s, is you mentioned there were guys, like Ricky Rubio putting up incredible lines of 51 points and 28 rebounds and 17 assists in the championship and such. You really didn't have the guys in the U18s this year that wowed you with numbers. You had an all-star team that was basically 5 guys, people averaging about 12, 13 points, the big guys about 5 or 7 rebounds. Only one guy averaged a double-double. It really doesn't have the hard-hitting, oh my goodness, can't miss prospects that we've come to be used to the past few years. I think my favorite of the U18 bunch, and he was on that all-tournament team, is Nenad Miljanovic. He's a super skinny point guard out of Serbia. Sam and I had a chance to see him play live in Paris 2 years ago at the Nike Junior Tournament. And he really he's a competitor. He probably have him listed at 165, but dude is not more than 135, soaking wet, change in his pockets. But he's a scrappy kid. He knows how to run a team. Nice shot, and maybe not going to have that star potential that you look for in draft picks, the huge upside, so to speak. But he's a guy that will be in the NBA in a few years, in at least a backup capacity, like you maybe saw Oroko Hukic a few years ago.
Hey, Sam, let me throw that same question at you. I like that prospect, and we'll go into deeper with the point guards that are potentially coming into 2012 because I like a lot of these point guards. But same thing for you, Sam. Who's someone that stood out in your eyes?
A guy that stood out in my eyes is someone that's been on the radar kind of starting this year, and that's Dario Saric, playing for Croatia. He played in the U19 tournament this year, actually, and he was 17 years old. So he was by far one of the youngest guys there, if not the youngest guy. And Croatia had a little bit of a disappointing finish, coming in 8th, but he was pretty fantastic. He put up 18-8 and was kind of their inside or outside presence. And for someone so young in a tournament playing against, Jonas Valanciunas, who's already been drafted, and coming out ahead in their one-on-one battle, he really showed that maybe he doesn't have that elite athleticism you're looking for in a top prospect, but at such a young age, he has a really complete game that'll surprise a lot of scouts.
Yeah, and another thing about him, you mentioned young. He was also the youngest player at the Nike Hoop Summit this calendar year, playing with the likes of the Kentucky team for this year because they're all freshman studs and playing with all these other international stars like Bismack Biyombo and everyone else. He was the youngest player on that team, and he held his own. I mean, the practices were awesome. That's what I like to see is these young guys fighting in practice and earning minutes and then stepping out onto the court and being able to show it afterwards. And he's one of those guys that has been doing it for a while. I mean, he dominated at the 16-year, 15-year level as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, so those two guys are different prospects in their own right because we're definitely not going to see Saric for a few years thanks to the international rule we just discussed. He's probably a 13 draft guy, and who knows, we might even not have a 2012 draft, so he might be one of the top prospects in the next draft we're talking about in general.
Exactly.
So with to go back to the under-18s that we were talking about, that was the first tournament that we had this summer. What did you guys think? And Nick can follow, or Sam can go this time first, and then followed by Sam. What did you guys think of the USA's performance? Did they underachieve? Did they impress you more than you thought they were going to be?
I guess I'll go first on this one. I would say pretty disappointing. Considering kind of the rise USA basketball has had, not just on the top level, the professional level, the dream team level, but in the lower ranks the past few years, the talent level has really grown a lot. A lot of the best college guys or the guys still in high school have been playing. And this year, the group really wasn't super strong, but a disappointing finish, definitely.
Yeah, I have to agree. Not really. I think Team USA has really kind of built themselves around the senior team, the World Championships team and the Olympics team. And I think with Coach K coming in and Colangelo is really the architect of this. It's becoming more of a system, but right now it really is more of a team-to-team basis. We operate on a U18 basis, a U20 basis, U19 basis. We don't start early and try to bring you through the grapevine up to the big leagues. And that's what other countries have done for so long and done so successfully. And that's how they do know if a Dario Saric is ready at 17 to jump up to the U19. So that's the sort of thing where it's going to be a structural change, and it might come slowly, and it should come, and it will come, but it's just tough. It's tough with all the amateurism stuff that goes on over here. A lot of these guys in Europe have been playing pro ball or for pro teams since they're 15, 16 years old, and so it's a much more consistent way of doing things. You play for your club team, then in the summer you go play for your national team. In the U.S., it's so much different with AAU tournaments, and now you have college, and maybe you're looking into the draft, and it's just a much different, we're operating in a much different environment over here. But I think things will change, and Colangelo is going to be a big, big reason for that.
Quick yes or no from both you guys. Is Paul Hewitt the first change?
I hope not.
Well, I hope so.
So disagreement there. So one of you guys like Paul Hewitt running this program, one of you guys don't.
Yeah, I absolutely do not like Paul Hewitt running this program.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't know. I'm from Atlanta, and I live a few blocks away from Georgia Tech at the moment, and I've seen him lose too many games and enter the final 2 minutes of too many games, having already used all of his timeouts to have any more faith in him as a guy that can lead. I think he's a great recruiter, and I think he's a good teacher, but I don't think he's a great coach for short tournaments, especially where it's all about tactics and making changes on the fly.
I mean, and the thing with Paul Hewitt is he basically made his teams in Georgia Tech out of recruiting. So you're the USA men's U19 team. You don't need to recruit. You should be already getting the cream of the crop, basically, and he just comes in and doesn't coach well. So that's not what you want. You want an X's and O's guy. You want a guy who's going to develop the talent, not just someone who can come in your living room and sell you on USA or George Mason basketball.